Okay, so for today's craft for the calendar, I thought mini zone, maybe if you had like a party plate, a paper plate in your cupboard, you could use that. Or you could just cut a circle, maybe out of paper, and pretend. And you could prepare a Passover meal like the one Jesus shared on your plate. So I cut out a piece of brown bread, a piece of brown paper to look like brown bread, and you could stick that onto your plate. If you maybe had a paper cup, you could stick or use a glue dot and put the paper cup on to represent the meal that Jesus shared, the bread and the wine with his disciples. So you could put that on your paper plate, and maybe you might like to write something from the story. So Jesus told his disciples, "Do this in remembrance of me." Or you could write a prayer on it. If you don't have a paper cup, you could draw a cup, maybe a little bit like the goblet that I had in the story. You could cut that out of any bit of paper. This represents the last special meal that Jesus shared with his friends. Maybe you could talk about a favourite meal at home that you share with your family. Junior zone, if you're up for a little bit more, I thought you could also base your craft using a paper plate. I got one, and if you've got brown crayons or something like that, be easier. I didn't, so I painted it. You could paint your table. Then you could create your people who are going to go round that. Now, to do that, you need a piece of A4 paper. I folded it in half lengthwise. And then I cut it. Now keep your two lengths together and fold it across in half. Make a crease. Now what you want to do next is zigzag this. Okay, so you're folding it like this in thirds. Now you can just try to judge this, or if you want to measure it and be a little bit more careful, then it's just sort of roughly about 5 centimetres. But I'm just being a wee bit lazy here. And make a nice sharp crease, so you can see that it's kind of like a zigzag. Now it's a bit hard to cut through this all together, so I'm actually going to just take them apart and do them one at a time. So remember, they're folded in half and then zigzagged. Now, get a pencil or a pen. I'm going to use a black felt tip so that you can see this nice and easily. So at the bottom you want to draw a triangle. Make sure that it doesn't start at the corner, it has to start in a little bit. So I'm going to draw a triangle. Okay. Then just a little bit higher than halfway up, I'm going to draw in a sort of a curve. And then bring it down. Again, not to the very corner, a little bit higher than that. And I want to do the same on the other side. Okay, and finally, I want to go across, stop, just to the top of the page. Okay, now you should see I've got a kind of a person shape. So keeping it folded, I'm going to cut it out. And I might try to tidy it up slightly as I cut it out. Just if you turn your page, so I snip off the edge. Okay, this is the bit I like. So I open it up and ta-da! I've got 6 of the apostles who shared the last meal with Jesus. Now I do exactly the same with this piece and I create the other 6. So what that means is I need to take one more piece to create the figure of Jesus as well. And you can decorate them. You can draw some features on them, you can draw some hair on them, but you don't have to. Okay. Here's one I did earlier. Right. So I just gave them some hair and some beards. Now to stick them on, I put a bit of glue around the back of the plate along the edge. Maybe don't take the glue all the way around, depends on the size of your plate. And I'm going to get my apostles to sit around the table, or to be around the table, to join in. Just push them underneath a little bit. And the other ones. Just going around like this. Now when you read this story in the Bible, and remember it's on our calendar, you can read it in Mark and in Luke as well. I read the story from Luke. There's also a part in the story where the disciples start to talk amongst themselves about who's the greatest. And Jesus talks to them. And he is saying that the person who is the greatest is actually the person who is willing to serve others. So this is the figure of Jesus. And Jesus says that we should be prepared to serve one another. So what I really loved about this when I cut these figures out is you might have noticed this, the shape that's created in between each one. And maybe you'll notice, I didn't talk about it earlier, but it's a heart. So these people are all joined together with these heart shapes. So I just decided to colour one in and to stick that on as well. Jesus talked to them about showing love for one another by serving, and he was prepared to wash feet for them. He came as a humble servant king. Now you could decide whether you want to put some a cup and some bread on the table, the meal they shared, or perhaps you want to write, like I did in the other craft, do this in remembrance of me. But whatever way you create it, you can add that to your calendar. And that's Junior Zone. Senior Zone, I thought maybe you might like to have a go at the bread. I was just really thinking about how some of you like to make and to cook and to bake. And that was on my mind a bit this week. So that's why I prepared another wee clip for you and thought that you just might like to have a go at making some flatbread of your own, just thinking about this Passover feast and what it means. Okay, whichever you decide to do, have fun, Kidzone.